I've waited 35 years to thank this man, publicly thank Gabe for his genius. He's putting us on the map.
But it was like these four guys, virgin ethnic backgrounds, were the best of friends.
This show is as funny as anything we've ever seen today.
Before John Travolta was Tony Manero, and before Saturday Night Fever, there was a broke, unknown kid from New Jersey who walked onto the set of a show nobody thought would survive its first season, and became the biggest star on American television in under 3 years. Welcome back. Kotter premiered on ABC on September 9th, 1975, and what happened around it, inside it, and behind the cameras during its 4-year run is so much stranger than what ended up on screen that it almost feels like a different show entirely. We have 21 facts. Let's count them down. Starting now. Before we get into it, be honest in the comments right now. Did you watch Welcome Back, Kotter growing up, or is this your first time hearing about it? Number 21. The show was based on the creator's real stand-up act. Welcome Back. Kotter was not invented in a writer's room by people imagining what a Brooklyn school might look like. It was drawn directly from Gabe Kaplan's lived experience and his stand-up material about it. Gabe grew up in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, and attended New Utrecht High School in the 1960s. He had been one of the struggling, unruly students in the remedial track, the exact kind of kid the educational system had written off as a future problem rather than a future anything. The name was changed to James Buchanan High School for the show. But the building is real, and Brooklyn residents recognized it immediately. The show was literally Gabe Kaplan's life turned into television. So how exactly did those famous character names end up being so bizarre? And where did the Sweat Hogs come from? Number 20. The Sweat Hogs had a real origin, and it involved no air conditioning. The name Sweat Hogs sounds like something a comedy writer invented after 3 cups of coffee. But it was not. When Gabe Kaplan was a student at New Utrecht High School in Brooklyn, the remedial and lower track classes were held on the top floor of the 8 building. This was not a coincidence or an accident of scheduling. It was effectively where the school put the students it cared about least. The building had no air conditioning. The top floor in a New York City summer was genuinely, brutally hot. The students assigned to those classrooms spent their days sweating through their clothes in a room that the rest of the school avoided. They called themselves the Sweat Hogs. The characters came from real Brooklyn streets and real sweaty top-floor classrooms. But the theme song that made the show immortal was almost never written at all, and the story of how it happened changed the title of the show itself. What went wrong when John Sebastian sat down to write it? Number 19. The theme song changed the name of the entire show. The show was originally called simply Kotter. That was the title that went into development, that appeared on early materials, and that John Sebastian, the former frontman of the Lovin' Spoonful, was handed when he was asked to write the theme song. Sebastian sat down and tried to write a theme song that incorporated the title. The problem was immediate and irreversible. Nothing rhymes with Kotter in a way that works in a song. He kept trying and kept failing, and eventually gave up on the single-word title entirely. Instead, he wrote a song about the show's premise. A man coming back to where he grew up, returning to the school where he was once the student and now was the teacher. He called the song Welcome Back. The producers heard it and responded to it so strongly that they changed the title of the show to match the song. Welcome Back became Welcome Back, Kotter, with the song giving the show its name rather than the other way around. The theme song hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. The show went on to become a massive hit, but who almost played the female lead and ended up going somewhere else entirely instead? Number 18. Farrah Fawcett and Kate, era. Jackson both auditioned for Mrs. Kotter. When auditions were being held for the role of Julie Kotter, Gabe's wife, the casting process attracted 2 actresses who were about to become some of the most recognizable faces in American television. Farrah Fawcett and Kate Jackson auditioned. Neither got the part. The role went to Marcia Strassman. Farrah Fawcett could not get this role and went on to become a global icon. Groucho Marx actually got hired for the show and then could not do his scene. The story of what happened that day is one of the saddest things in the show's history. Number 17. Groucho Marx showed up on set and was too frail to perform. Gabe Kaplan was, throughout the run of Welcome Back, Kotter, a dedicated and practiced impressionist of Groucho Marx. He did it in the show regularly. He did it so well that the producers arranged for Marx himself to make a cameo appearance in an episode called Sadie Hawkins Day. The idea was elegant. Kotter does his Groucho impression, as he often did, and then the real Groucho walks in to react to being impersonated. When he arrived, the production team saw immediately that he was not physically capable of performing. He was too weak, too frail, too far gone from the man he had been. The scene was scrapped entirely. Marks posed for publicity photographs with the cast, but those photographs were never released publicly because everyone involved decided his frail appearance would not serve his legacy. He died the following year, in 1977. Marcia Strassman, who played Kotter's wife in the scene Groucho would have joined, had her own shocking secret about what she thought of the show and everyone on it. Number 16. She prayed every day for the show to be canceled. In 1978, while Welcome Back, Kotter was still in production and Marcia Strassman was still appearing on it every week as Julie Kotter, she gave an interview to People magazine. She did not soften what she had to say. She described Gabe Kaplan as someone who runs hot and cold. She said she hated working with him, that even blatant hostility would be easier to deal with. And then she said the part that people remember: "I hate the series. I pray every day for a cancellation."
The actress was known for her breakout role as Julie Kotter in the 70s TV show Welcome Back, Kotter.
The story behind the quote, which emerged later, is actually more complicated and considerably sadder than it first appears. After Kaplan read the article, he reached out to Strassman to discuss it. What he discovered was that the show's executive producer, James Comack, had been separately telling both of them that the other one disliked them. He had been manufacturing tension between the two leads by feeding each of them the impression that the other was hostile. Meanwhile, a future sitcom legend was in the building writing jokes that would never air. Who was the famous comedian who spent time as a Welcome Back, Kotter staff writer with nothing to show for it? Number 15. Gary Shandling wrote an episode. Gary Shandling, who created The Larry Sanders Show and It's Gary Shandling's Show and reshaped American comedy in ways that are still visible in every late-night program and every comedian's memoir, wrote an episode of Welcome Back, Kotter. He was early in his career and still building his credentials, and an episode credit on a hit ABC sitcom was exactly the kind of work that established writers on their way up. The episode aired. His name is in the credits. He built on that foundation over the next decade until he was one of the most influential comedians in the country. The Gary Shandling episode of Welcome Back, Kotter, exists. Moving on, the story of how Travolta actually got the role of Vinnie Barbarino and what almost happened instead is something most fans have never heard. Let's talk about that. Number 14. Vinnie Barbarino was almost named. Something completely different. The character that John Travolta played, the one that launched his entire career, was not originally called Vinnie Barbarino. The character's name in development was Eddie Barberini. The change happened before filming began, somewhere in the development process where names get refined and tested against whether they sound right coming out of a young actor's mouth and landing in a Brooklyn high school setting. Vinnie Barbarino is a perfect television name. Two words with the right rhythm, an Italian-American identity signaled clearly, and a slight edge of the comedic without tipping into parody. Eddie Barberini would have worked. Vinnie Barbarino became iconic. Travolta made Vinnie Barbarino one of the most famous fictional high schoolers on American television. And then he walked away to make movies while the show was still running, earning the smallest possible paycheck to do it. How much was John Travolta making per episode in Season 4, while being one of the biggest movie stars in the world? Number 13. Travolta earned $2,000 per episode in Season 4 while being a global superstar. By Season 4 of Welcome Back, Kotter in 1978, John Travolta had starred in Carrie, Saturday Night Fever, and Grease. He was one of the biggest movie stars on the planet. He was being paid in millions for his film work, and because of the contract he had signed before any of that happened, his per-episode rate for Welcome Back, Kotter was $2,000. He appeared in 10 episodes of the final season, earning $2,000 each, and was billed in those episodes not as a regular cast member but as a special guest star. The man at the center of the two most commercially successful films of 1977 and 1978 was being paid $2,000 per television episode to appear in a show that his departure was actively killing. Gabe Kaplan was also going through his own exit from the show he created, but his reasons were different and considerably less financially motivated. Number 12. The creator stopped believing in his own show and basically quit. Gabe Kaplan stopped believing in the series he created by the third season, and the reason was a logic problem that he could not make himself ignore. The Sweat Hogs were still in high school. They had been in high school for 3 years. They did not appear to be making meaningful progress toward graduation. The academic calendar of James Buchanan High School appeared to operate on some alternate temporal plane where students remained perpetually enrolled while the world outside changed around them. Kaplan found this premise increasingly impossible to sustain with a straight face. He raised the issue with producers, but was not sympathetic.
Well, that's stupid. I mean, why would I think that Vinny's gonna do his homework?
Look, Mr. Kotter, nobody cares whether Vinny does his homework.
By season 4, Kaplan broke his contract and reduced his appearances to a handful of episodes. Through all of this chaos happening behind the scenes, one cast member was showing up for every single episode. Who was it, and why does that fact matter? Number 11. Only one cast member appeared in all 95 episodes. 1. Lawrence Hilton Jacobs, who played Freddie Boom Boom Washington, is the only cast member to have appeared in all 95 episodes of Welcome Back, Kotter. While supporting cast members came and went, and the show was actively falling apart around him in the final season, Lawrence Hilton Jacobs showed up for every single episode of the entire run. 95 episodes across 4 seasons without a single absence. John Travolta's sister showed up in a very different way, beating out a future Emmy winner for a recurring role. You probably walked right past this casting fact without knowing what you were looking at. Number 10. Ellen Travolta as Horshack's mother. John Travolta's real sister, Ellen Travolta, was cast in Welcome Back, Kotter as Horshack's mother. She beat out Doris Roberts, who would later win 5 Emmy Awards for Everybody Loves Raymond for the role. Ellen Travolta also played Fonzie's aunt on Happy Days. The Travolta family was working across half of ABC's Thursday night lineup simultaneously, and most viewers had no idea. Speaking of things fans overlooked, the next fact will leave you shocked. Number 9. A stunt double that would leave you shocked. Steve Guttenberg, who would go on to star in Police Academy, Cocoon, and 3 Men and a Baby, worked as John Travolta's stunt double in the television commercial for the Welcome Back, Kotter board game, Up Your Nose with a Rubber Hose.
So why don't you stick up for yourself, Vinny? Why don't you give him one of your usual up your nose with a rubber hose? I tried.
The game and commercial existed. Steve Guttenberg was standing in for Travolta in it. None of these 3 facts are things most people would have predicted appearing in the same sentence. Number 8. The awkward timing. When Welcome Back, Kotter premiered in September 1975. It landed in the same week that Boston was implementing court-ordered school desegregation, with racial tensions in the city running extremely high. A show about a racially and ethnically diverse group of students learning from a teacher who believed in them was arriving at exactly the moment American schools were being forced to confront those same questions in real and painful ways. The show arrived at the exact right cultural moment, and the audience responded by turning it into something much bigger than a sitcom. But how big did it actually get? Number 7. A franchise nobody saw coming. DC Comics published 10 issues of a Welcome Back, Kotter comic book starting in 1976. Between 1976 and 1977, a series of novelizations also appeared. The merchandise extended to lunchboxes, board games, and essentially every format available in the mid-1970s for a hit television property. The show at its peak was a full franchise, not just a sitcom. The show sold lunchboxes, comic books, and board games.
Start right off, we have number 3. 2 copies of that. These should be 1977.
It was everywhere. And then the leader of the free world proved he had absolutely no idea what it was called. Number 6 is one of the funniest presidential moments in television history. Number 6, the president got the name wrong. In 1977, Gabe Kaplan was invited to the White House to meet President Jimmy Carter. Carter greeted him and then said, "And when you go back to California, say hello to the groundhogs." Not the sweat hogs, the groundhogs. The President of the United States of America had confused the name of the group of fictional characters at the center of one of the most popular shows on television. Kaplan has told this story in interviews for decades, and it never stops being funny. Even the President of the United States could not keep the name straight, and yet the show was pulling in some of the biggest celebrity names in America to guest star every single week. Number 5 is the guest list you had no idea this Brooklyn classroom ever hosted. Number 5, the guest list that proved everything. The show attracted a guest list that reads like a roll call of 1970s American celebrities. James Woods appeared, George Carlin appeared, Della Reese, Pat Morita, John Astin. The show was popular enough and culturally significant enough that major names wanted to be associated with it during its peak years, which is the specific kind of cultural validation that money cannot buy. Number 4 is about the night the American fuel crisis killed a sweat hog episode. Number 4, the night Jimmy Carter canceled the show. One episode of the show was supposed to air on May 25, 1979, but was preempted when President Jimmy Carter gave a live press conference about the fuel crisis affecting America at the time. The episode was called Ooh, Ooh, I Do. Carter's press conference displaced it entirely. A fictional Brooklyn classroom was bumped by an actual presidential address about gasoline, which is a collision of the real world and the fictional one that tells you something about what 1979 actually felt like to live through. Around the same time, the people behind the show were wrestling with an even bigger crisis of their own. What do you do with teenagers who never graduate? Number 3. The college spin-off that never was. One proposed plan to continue the show after its ratings declined was to have the Sweat Hogs graduate and follow them to college, with Kotter transitioning to becoming a college professor. This would have solved the logic problem Kaplan had about teenagers who never seemed to graduate while also preserving the core cast and premise.
Sweet Sweat Hog with that crazy laugh from the hit 70s show Welcome Back, Kotter.
The idea was developed seriously enough to reach the proposal stage. It was ultimately rejected, and the show ended instead. And somewhere in Italy, audiences were only just being introduced to it, under a name that made absolutely no sense. Number 2. Italy called it something completely different. The Italian television market did not air Welcome Back, Kotter, until after John Travolta had starred in Saturday Night Fever in 1977. The film's Italian title is translated as La Febbre del Sabato Sera, Italian. Adapters, wanting to capitalize on Travolta's film fame when they finally broadcast the show, renamed the series I Ragazzi del Sabato Sera, which translates to Saturday Night Guys. Italian audiences were therefore watching a show called Saturday Night Guys that had nothing to do with Saturday Night Fever, named after a movie because of an actor who was in both things, in a country that had to wait for the movie before they were offered the show it had launched from. Italy had to wait for the movie before they got the show that launched the movie's star. And that star is the entire story of number 1, which is the simplest and most staggering fact on this entire list. Number 1, 3 years was all it took. John Travolta was 21 when the show launched, and 24 when he made Saturday Night Fever. The entire runway that turned him from an unknown New Jersey kid into the defining star of late 1970s popular culture was 3 years long. The show gave him the national recognition that made Hollywood unable to ignore him. And then the films took him somewhere the show could not follow. That is the story of Welcome Back, Kotter in one career, a launchpad that succeeded so completely it destroyed itself. Which of these facts genuinely surprised you the most? And if Welcome Back, Kotter came back today with a completely new cast, do you think it would work? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.